I actually like his look very much. You're so cute, I want to draw you. Too bad you're gonna, rip out my spine or something. Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel. I am Espoir David, and today I want to play the second game from the developer of Sacrarium Pario. Now that I think about it, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. In Sacrarium Pario, we briefly encountered another living god, similar to our frosty friend who was, kinda mean. I fell silent and watched in horror as a shadow began to peel itself from the wall. A vicious, serrated smile looked unnaturally wide on its face. Well, what's this? So we'll get to learn more about them, Violo, in this game, and see if they really are scary. So join me as I play Sacrarium Pario. Oh dear. Content warnings: gore, human taxidermy, human vivisection and dissection, flesh abominations, body horror, death, unhealthy power dynamics, dubious consent, and Stockholm Syndrome. Oh, and please take note of the many trigger warnings. I wish to continue. Ooh. Waking up on a ship was nothing new. This was the first time I did it in chains. Oh. Sluggish thoughts swam through my aching skull. My fumbling motions revealed chains binding my wrists and legs to the floor. They were heavy, and the manacles were tight enough that I worried about blood flow. Hazy memories resurfaced piece by piece. Each new recollection sent a dagger of betrayal straight through my heart. Not again. I attempted to sit up and fell back against the crates with a groan. My head felt like it was splitting in two, and past experience told me I had at least 2 cracked ribs. Ooh. A nasty bruise chafed under the tight manacles. Blood poured down my forehead and dried on my chin and throat. I remembered the bruise and the cut to my head. The enemy found my location sooner than expected and forced a melee confrontation. We still won that fight. Zhao. The name fell out of my lips like a curse rather than a plea. He'd left quite the big knot on the back of my head. It took me 5 years to get comfortable with him, to gain the confidence to trust him with my back. And this was my repayment, a ticket to a fate worse than death, if the chains belonged to who I thought they did. Did Zhao sell me out? Familiar runes were crudely carved into the chain links. Drain runes. Drain runes bled magic users dry, and were necessary if you wanted to traffic humans. I'd shattered more than a few of these in my career. In a way, it was no surprise that I'd ended up in some myself. One doesn't make an enemy of the tourmaline ring and walk away unscathed. This was inevitable. They'd better have paid you well for this, Zhao. Hope it's enough to keep me from finding you. Oh, okay. The anger festering within me gave me the strength to finally sit up. The cargo hold was tight, blood-stained, but not smelly. I had to be the only living cargo down here. Which was bad. These ships never had only one piece of cargo, so they were in an even worse place if they weren't with me. Ooh. Upon examination, the runes on the chains were cheap and outdated. Reaching within myself to gather mana revealed I had a tiny amount still within me. Oh, I'm gonna throw the tiniest fireball at you, just... I could also partially open my third eye. Opening my third eye sharpened my senses and alerted me to the fact that there were other people down here. The clattering of coins and cheery conversation indicated they were crew, not captives. Sometimes I wished I was able to completely open my third eye. This was one of those cases. I couldn't reach far enough with a partial opening. Instinctively, I looked up and around me. Elementals hung in the air. Small, brain-dead water droplets lazed around, carried around by young, rambunctious air elementals. Air elementals were difficult to control on ships, they were easily distracted by the water and the salt. Thus, they spread themselves too thin and became near brain dead. The bored little things latched onto my call in a near frenzy of excitement. I gathered the little energy I had left in me and offered it to them. Let me hear them. It took a bit of pushing and insistence to guide them the right way. Soon, those unintelligible voices became clearer. My vision became overwhelmed by what the elementals were showing me. 4 people around a tiny table, drinking and playing cards. They were all slurring the tritao with a variety of different accents one could find in the Sacrarium Sea. What do you think we'll get for her? Probably not much. Don't underestimate the cost of a biscuit. Old slobs pay well for possible breeders. Oh no. Especially if the cap sells her to a rental place. We'll make passive coin that way. Do we even know if she can carry? Lots of mercs like her take something to stop that from happening. Yeah, but rental places can reverse it. Ooh. I hear what you guys are saying, and I don't like where it's going. Really? Why don't we take more women then? Because if too many pretty ladies disappear at once, people get suspicious. Their daddies and mommies are more likely to block the ports to look for him. Guess we're lucky she's a nobody. The group laughed a bit. But for real, I don't know why the cap handed over so much coin for this one. Do you really not know who that is? The muscular man nodded and looked confused. He's here to hit things, not remember them. She patted his arm. That's David, the David, top of the bounty board in the ring, 8 years in a row. Oh, I'm flattered. I saw the man's jaw drop. So yeah, we don't gotta treat her like other cargo. There are people dying to get their hands on her. I wonder if Cap is going to do a torture rental. The hard part is making sure everyone gets a turn then. David has more than a few people who want her dead after all. We're gonna make so much money! Not unless I escape! The glee in all their faces made me sick. Hey, at least I'm not being betrayed by my entire friends and neighbors this time. We might make enough that we don't have to keep snagging rats. I clenched my fists and bit back a growl. A rat meant a child. Children were popular merchandise since they were easier to abuse into compliance. If I can get up. I tried to stand, but I couldn't. People like this were scum, and definitely had special places saved for them in the hex. My breath came out in embarrassingly paying pants due to my minimal exertion. Unable to move, I focused back on what the elementals showed me. Do we really gotta cut through that place? He lowered his voice down to a near whisper. A shiver ran down my spine. There was only one area locals called that place and refused to speak of. I know it's scary, but we'll be fine. The path we use hasn't had problems this month. Keep your head on a swivel all the same. Get compliant in that place, and you get eaten by one of that thing's toys. The big man shivered and rubbed his hands up and down his arms. I'm not even worried about the toys. I'm worried about the ghost ships. Ghost ships? Ha! The other 3 laughed at him. Yes, the miraculous ghost ships, where only the crew disappear while their cargo returns to shore. Oh. She hit the big man's shoulder. Don't be daft. That's only the tales our cargo tells amongst themselves to feel better. I've seen one, though. A ring ship with no crew, only shell-shocked cargo. And how old were you when you saw this? 7, but it was probably a cargo mutiny due to a bad crew. It happens. Some people can't maintain control. Not every crew has Cap around to maintain our superior level of professionalism. The muscular man shook his head.
I still don't like it.
What? You scared that the creator and the creation will pop out of the sea? Whisk you away? The other three laughed again.
Shh! Don't say their titles like that. It's bad luck.
You really are young.
Greenbloods like you always get so worried about the false idols on Pario. Remember to pay your respect to the true gods, and you'll be fine. Don't say that name either. Too many ghost ships, too many rotting monsters on the beaches. I don't want to die because you lot don't know how to be respectful.
Respectful of what? 2 a-holes cursed by the divine? The bald woman gave a vicious grin. Oh, don't tell me their actual names are forbidden, too.
Don't you dare! Saying that while we're in this place is asking to die.
Oh no! Whatever will I do when Violo and Vivere appear? The bald woman and her friends laughed. The muscular man slammed his palms down on the table.
Now you've done it!
You just hear a splash because he's jumped overboard, he's swimming back to shore. He looked frantic.
Calm down, lad. We've said their names plenty of times. Never had a bad thing happen. Sure hope we're not currently in a visual novel that's all about those two and something bad might happen to us.
The muscular man shook his head and got up. Where are you going? We just started the round.
To pray for us.
He was already making the hand motions for a prayer to the goddess of mercy while walking away. The rest of his table mates laughed and jeered at him before continuing their game. Enough. The view closed, and I gritted my teeth. Deep in the center of the Sacrarium Sea rested an island surrounded for miles by blood-red waters. Those waters, the blood waters, were the prison that contained the deadliest living gods. This immortal pair haunted the dreams of children and sailors alike. The Creator, he who had destroyed divine law with his twisted creations. The creation, something built to mimic humans in an ungodly way. The pair sank hundreds of ships every year. When their creations died, they left acidic corpses on our beaches. Any sane sailor turned back the moment the water started to look even slightly pink. Only fools like those in the ring dared to actually cut through it to avoid civil guard patrols. I wouldn't need to worry about my fate once we docked. I needed to pray we'd dock at all. It was madness, and I was being dragged into it with them. For a moment, despair welled up in me. Betrayal was nothing new. It was a familiar song and dance. I'd gotten myself out of similar scraps, but this had to be the most hopeless one yet. Trapped on a ship with armed traffickers while riding through the most cursed area in all the seas. It was a death sentence. Unless I could turn it around. I have not lived this long to die now. I felt around my soul and body, seeing what kind of magical reserves I had left. It was very little. The previous battle had drained most of my energy. Like before, reaching and gathering my power felt like physical agony. Only my years of training kept me from falling to one knee. I didn't need anything flashy. I only needed enough power to rip the nails out of the floor. I wrapped the chains around my arms until they became taut. My muscles and bones protested my pulling, but I powered through the pain. It took all my focus to time-bursting my energy with the momentum of the pull. I succeeded. The action had me falling back against the wall. Black spots danced along the edge of my vision, and my legs shook. I tried to focus on making sure no one heard me. The ringing in my ears drowned out everything else. Steady, steady. Each slow breath hurt like heck. Still, I persisted in the motion, careful not to breathe too deep. My ribs would resent the extra damage otherwise. Oh yeah, on the count of my broken ribs! While I gathered the strength to move, I collected my wits. I was stuck out at sea on a ship with traffickers who wanted me dead or gone. That traitor had stripped me of my weapons, and I had no allies for miles. And that chain back there would make a nice weapon. Then again, I doubted I had allies at all. Relationships that didn't end in treachery were rare in my line of work. Not that it mattered. I had no way of reaching help at all. To make matters worse, we were heading into the Bloodwaters. What could I do? Don't make me choose. I needed to fight my way out, I needed to sneak my way out, or just give up. No, we don't give up round here. I think we should be sneaky. I needed to sneak my way out or die trying. I tried to remember anything I saw before going unconscious. If my memory was correct, there were emergency boats on the side. My body was weak, but I wasn't dead yet. Reaching into myself, I determined I had enough power left to make the boat land in the waters quietly. I only needed to get one unseen. The hard part would be getting around their guards. With other cargo spread around, they'd be on high alert. Honestly, they'd probably be more on alert because I was on board. I observed the lanterns and candles, debating messing with them. No, that'd be too noticeable. If anything, it'd lure them in. I could use it as an ambush if needed. With a pained groan, I hauled myself up. There was work to do. If I managed to escape, it would be quite the boast to add to my sales pitch. I didn't have time to react when the ship lurched. My poor balance sent me rolling across the floor. Only instinct had me bracing my feet against a column to keep from rolling anymore. The sprain in my left ankle screeched at the impact, but I didn't have time to wonder if I'd broken it. Another lurch came from the other side of the ship. Uh-oh. I flung my long wrist chains around the column and used them to hold on. Chaos reigned above me. Frantic screams and shouting echoed down the stairs. The sounds of metal clanging against something unnatural rung out. The lurching stopped, but the fighting continued. I managed to pull myself behind a small gathering of cargo crates by the time members of the crew ran downstairs. Fluff, fluff, fluff! O goddess of mercies, grant me freedom from this torment. O gods of secrets, grant me your blessing to hide. Oh, now you're praying. You should have learned. You should have listened to the dumb guy, the big dumb muscle guy. People babbled and shouted at one another. No one even noticed that I wasn't where I was supposed to be. We're doomed! We're doomed! The sound of something heavy trotting down the stairs had new screams of terror rising up. A symphony of broken bones and thudding bodies took over. Unnatural, disturbing grunts and groans echoed from the beasts mauling them. Ooh. I wasn't expecting any kind of voice acting. The gleeful laughter echoing above it had me frozen in place. Ah! Ha ha! The voice was low and had a slight rasp, but there was a sadistic, playful quality to it. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17 people left. The screaming began to die down into pained sobs. I didn't dare move from my spot. The man began to hum. The cheerful melody felt out of place with the backing chorus of people pleading for their lives. Is this Violo? Jeez. Let's see. Male, no diseases of note, no injuries of note, emaciated form, poor bone density. Not viable. I heard the sound of a blade ripping through flesh, cutting off a terrified scream. Female, unique blood condition. I recognize the type, but research is lacking. Viable. The sobbing increased into panic screams. Something hauled the woman away. Male, impressive physique, decent health and bone density. Musculature could be useful for ligament experiments. Oh, he's looking at him for pieces. Viable. Please, no, no, no! The man's cries cut off as he was also pulled away. "Please, please," the woman pleaded. "Begging is pointless, silly scum." "It's not like you've spared anyone in your life. What's it like? Do you enjoy being powerless? Is it fun? Does it make you think of your sins? Come now, tell me. I asked you a question." The playful tone turned into something more dangerous. The man tapped his foot. "Female, nothing impressive, less than average health, beyond stupid, not viable." I heard the sound of something slamming against the floor. The sound of a skull caving in cut off her pained cry. "Finally, intersex. Fascinating. Sadly, I finished that research some time ago. Ah, a unique bone disease. This is new. Fascinating." He clapped his hands with glee.
Fantastic!
What a wonderful find. You'll make for a wonderful case study. Viable. This one didn't even put up a fight as the beast hauled him away. I kept my hand clasped over my mouth. No one else was around. He'd missed me. If he doesn't sink the ship, I could get away. I could also try and sneak out to one of the emergency boats. The man was humming while moving through the cargo hold. I tensed up when he passed right by me, holding my breath. To my horror, he looked right at me. "Ah! Hey, cutie. Ah! You have beautiful eyes!" His eyes were foggy and unfocused. Messy dark brown hair framed a delicate face and wide blind eyes. Freckles covered tan skin. Unique gold-filled scars sprawled along his chest. Cool. He'd almost look like a mischievous angel, if not for the blood splattered on his face. "I actually like his look very much. You're so cute, I want to draw you. Too bad you're gonna, rip out my spine or something." He scanned the area, and I could feel magical energy radiating off of him. It felt like I was standing next to a white-hot flame. I pulled my own third eye shut to avoid his energy and hoped he wouldn't notice the remnants of my presence. My chest burned from holding my breath, but I didn't dare release it. "Okay, me. If this guy really is blind, but he can see people's bone density, I think he's probably going to be able to see you." This wasn't the first time I'd fought a blind magic user. They tended to be prodigies due to their minds being able to process magic better. After all, their brain didn't need to produce or process visual feedback from magic. Instead, that extra focus went straight into their natural abilities. My limited abilities allowed me sharper senses and a keen awareness of danger. A completely open third eye was something for prodigies alone. "His third eye will see me! Meld!" Frustrated tears mingled with the sweat and blood on my face. I waited for him to address me, wondering if he wanted to torment me on purpose. Even though his third eye passed over me, he turned away. I let out a surprised gasp and cringed. He didn't turn back. "Oh, are my bones not good enough for you?" I blinked a few times. My jagged breath came out as a particularly loud wheeze. No reaction at all. The realization hit me like a hammer. Blind and deaf. Oh. I breathed quietly all the same. I couldn't bear to open my senses to check on the elementals. Even with my third eye closed, he was a beacon of power that pained me to even stand near. The realization that escape was possible had me shifting. I gathered my chains to pick them up off of the floor. I then slid my feet instead of walking to avoid noticeable vibrations. "Hello? I need to make sure no one is unconscious down here. Hello? If you're here, you need to tell me. I'll put you with the others in a more comfortable spot." He meandered through the cargo hold, humming the entire way. His humming grew fainter, and I took the chance to make my escape. I navigated the rocking of the ship until a sharp lurch sent me slamming into a column. The motion caused my head to hit a lantern, and I dropped my change to catch myself. With terrifying speed, the man was in my area again, head scanning the area. Ah! This time, there was an air of focus about him. The passive scan earlier was nothing compared to his intensity now. He reached out his hand while moving. I froze in place, debating what to do. Was it the chains hitting the floor that alerted him? Was it me hitting the column and lantern? His nose twitched with a sniff. Different blood. He let out a curious hum while moving around. He was going to find me. I needed to do something.
Jeez. I beg him to release me, stay quiet, try to fight him off. Well, my character's trying to stay quiet, so let's keep doing that. If I was very, very careful, I could dodge him. It was a long shot, but it was all I had. He explored at a casual pace. He overtook an entire crew, armed to the teeth with weapons, magical potions, and magic users. He had the power to be casual. I stayed still and waited for the inevitable. He actually passed me at first, but when he took a step back to turn around, he stepped into me. Oop. The surprised little squeak would have been cute on anyone else. Here, it felt twisted and wrong. He whirled around in an instant, hands flying towards me. One of his hands tangled into my bandolier, staining it with blood. He tugged me towards him, eyes wide.
What?
A person? He blinked a few times in surprise. The hand not holding onto me reached up and brushed against my face. He felt under my nose, across my lips, and around my throat. A living person. You... Are you mindless? I can't see you, or hear you. He cupped my face with a look of wonder on his features. I shook my head.
Truly an intriguing situation.
Oh no! An answer? Not mindless, only impossible to see. I felt magic push into me then, and winced. Magic entering your soul felt more invasive compared to magic pressed against your physical form. It's like pouring water into a pit. I can't sense a limit. The sensation pulled back, and a manic grin split across his face. Oh no! You are fascinating. I never would have thought I'd find such a treasure on one of these ships. Delighted laughter made my hackles raise. Not my hackles. His hands dropped down and snagged my chains. Maybe luck likes me more than he says he does. It's been so long since we had a guest with such unique value. You are what I've been waiting for. His pleased smile became more deranged. You have to come with me. His magic exploded in my mind. It overstimulated my senses until I cracked. I do not consent to this, good sir. I sank deep into the void, only the man's delighted whisper breaking through. We're going to have so much fun together. Oh. I floated in the darkness for an unknown amount of time, sinking further into the past. Soon, the unintelligible whispers turned into recognizable voices and sounds. Pain grew and grew in contrast to my body, which only felt smaller and smaller. The dark shadows began to form familiar colors and sensations. My body ached, and my limp arm hung at one side. I laid on the dirt ground of the barn, broken ladder beside me.
All I could do was stare up at the hideout Jabari and I had made together. The perfect place to escape our parents, and the only safe space during the bandit raid. My young mind was crying and scared, wondering why my best friend had kicked the ladder down. My vague adult awareness recognized the desperate self-preservation. He'd left me as sobbing, injured bait. I could do nothing but lay in a pained daze, pleading with the gods to save me. The bandits hadn't entered the barn. The civil guard had arrived faster than expected. The pain in my heart only grew even after my rescue. I could never find it in myself to forgive him. That small wound tore into a gaping hole when the civil guard recovered my parents' corpses. Everyone in the village had looked at me with hollow pity then. A broken arm meant I could do no work, and now had no parents to look after me. Like my friend, they kicked me to the side. I don't want to see this. The pains of my past began to bleed into each other again. Each time I extended a shaky, terrified hand daring to trust, a new wound gouged itself into my heart. Blind faith and hope for goodness sharpened into cynicism over the years. The wounds of the past tightened around my throat. My despair straddled me almost like a lover, tempting me to stop breathing to avoid the pain. I shook my head, thrashing and fighting back. With my first agonized gasp, my eyes flew open. Ooh. The ceiling above me looked rather plain. Chipped embossings were overrun with vines. I traced my eyes along them while steadying my breathing. The room was dim and humid. My body felt heavy, bloated, and uncomfortable. Someone healed me magically then. Magical healing was always expensive, and unlike most people, I tended to have a severe reaction to it. Thus, I tried not to get healed that way if I could avoid it. My hands ran across my body, and I noticed thin manacles on my wrists. They were lighter than the ones from the ship, and a dainty-looking chain connected them. I reached inwards for my magic, but found nothing. No energy at all. I ran a thumb across the chain and groaned upon realizing I recognized the runes on them. The ones on the ship had been cheap knockoffs. These were airtight in denying me my magic. The groan forced me to take in a deep breath, and I coughed on dust and the overwhelming smell of lye. What does lye smell like? Someone had washed the sheets recently, but this place still needed a good dusting. I sat up to look around. Something fluttered on the edge of my periphery. My head snapped over in the direction of the motion, and I braced myself for impact. Don't you dare scream.
Oh, hi.
A tall figure sat near my bed. It was a man, but not the one from the ship. That man had been slim, almost tiny. This one was a mountain of muscle, barely contained in haphazardly tied robes. Long hair poured over his shoulders, ending in colorful tips. Unnatural golden eyes sat in a sea of black, glaring at a dagger. Painful-looking seams broke up mottled gray skin. He looked like a monster you'd run away from. The sharp blade he played with didn't help the image. He stood to loom over me. He moved with regal grace, reminding me of a lion ready to pounce.
Why you mad? Why you mad, bro? I'm just sitting here. I have a feeling why you're mad, but it's not my fault. Yeah, let's greet him. Let's greet him nicely. What's up, gorgeous?
I stared at the man, weighing my options. The chains on my wrists indicated that I was a prisoner of some sort. Yet, I sat in a fresh room instead of the cold floor of a dungeon. Something was up. I took a breath and swallowed a few times to make my throat less dry before speaking.
Hello? Good afternoon?
I squinted at the window, Realizing that it wasn't sundown, the sky was a deep red color. A soft, surprised noise caught my attention. I looked back at the large man, who blinked at me a few times. His impressive face was almost slack with shock. Morning? I cannot tell what time it is. You were right the first time. The shock turned into slight amusement while he tucked the dagger away. Good afternoon. Rather blasé for the situation at hand. Panicking won't do much for me, will it? You don't strike me as the type who gets off on people begging. Keen assertion, and mostly accurate. What do you think getting on my good side will do for you? Well, it will make me less acquainted with that knife you were fondling. I don't know. Depends on what kind of host you feel like being. Host? Am I a host? Or a warden? There's evidence for both, so I don't know. After all, I'm chained up like a prisoner, but I'm in a room like a guest. It's an odd situation to interpret. To my surprise, the man chuckled. That was surprisingly amusing. He stared at me intently. Maybe you'll be worth something after all. I didn't know how to feel about the slight interest that flickered to life in his gaze. Any further odd conversation was cut off by the door to the room opening. The ship's attacker pranced in, tilting his head.
My sunshine.
Aw, he's so tiny. He's so itty-bitty. I'm gonna put you in my pocket. And then get killed.
Did you laugh, my sunshine? He raised a brow. Surprising, I know. Does this mean you're less upset with me? You're still in trouble. Dang. The smaller man sighed and pouted. You did this to yourself. I know. The shorter man sighed and turned to face me. You're awake, which is good. Any problems with your vision? Odd spots? Shorter range? No, but it's hard to tell for sure in a dim room. Ah, right. My sunshine can see in the dark. He laughed and waved a hand in front of his face. I haven't needed the light in a long time. We'll have to make sure to brighten the place up. Must we? I'd rather our guest not break her neck walking around, so yes, Vive. Vive let out a disgusted grunt. No issues with your hearing, it seems. No, I hear fine. I'm surprised you can hear me. Wasn't I interesting because he couldn't hear me? I can't hear you. I can hear the air elementals I've attached to you, repeating what you say to me. My eyes flickered around me out of habit. My chains preventing me from opening my third eye meant the gesture was meaningless. Which does make you so fascinating. I've never had to do this before. The small man stepped forward and grabbed at my face. Well, I have done it once before. A long time ago. It's quite the strain on him, too. Be grateful he deems you worth the effort. Not a strain, but an inconvenience. Elementals are a fussy, unreliable tool. The fingers on my chin trailed up my face. How do you feel? Be honest. Terrified.
Bombastic side eye.
I don't like the way your pal is looking at me. Ugh.
He said to be honest. There was no other answer given the true horror of my situation. 2 men living in a castle under a red sky. One of those men was called Vive. Vive had an unnatural, inhuman appearance. I licked my lips in my nervousness. Terrified? Whatever for? Unless... He cupped my face and leaned in. You've pieced together where you are. Such a smart little thing. It's not that impressive.
You jelly? You jelly, Vivi? You mad? Viv is gonna kill me. He's gonna put that knife right in my neck.
Viv rolled his eyes. Only a fool wouldn't be able to piece this together. The pieces alone are screaming the answer. I'd say recalling and combining irrelevant information under stress shows her abilities. So, I'm right. Well, you'd have to say it out loud first. I hesitated. Are you the creator and the creation? My mind went back to the running game children would play. The play creator and one play creation would chase the rest. The play creator would tag someone and sing a song to turn them into a creation. The play creation would then try to tag the new ones to kill them. The echoes of childish laughter and our play songs had me shuddering.
He'll make more, he'll break more. The cycle never ends until we're all dead friends.
You kids don't have anything nicer to play? My hands were freezing despite the hot, wet air in the room. The smaller man laughed in delight. See? Our guest did figure it out. Viv sounds less than impressed. Proper introductions are only polite. I am Violo, though you seem to know me as the creator. Violo tilted his head in the direction of Vive. That sourpuss is the creation, Vivere. Obviously. Violo finally released my face. Welcome to Pario. You'll be staying with us for some time. Violo clapped his hands together and gave me a big smile. If it was meant to comfort me, it had the opposite effect. You see, you're quite the fascinating find. Despite having mana of your own, your soul is a void. What?
The things I put up with.
You're so mad!
Oh, please. Vivere tossed his hair over his shoulder and glowered at me.
It burns! Ah!
There is no way you haven't noticed the oddness of your body. It's surprising you haven't been killed on accident. True, even with both of us managing it, the elementals are noting some sluggishness, which means we poured too much energy into you while healing. That can be fatal, you know, to you and the healer. I imagine healers charged you an arm and a leg for repeat visits. I flinched. That was true. How do you know I have manalines? Manalines. Beyond the fact I cut you open to check? What? I shuddered and looked down at my body, unable to find signs of his exploration. You have aura burns in your mouth from spell work. My sunshine says you also have discoloration under your nails, which is common in spell words. There's also the fact that the runes are active. We've both received the alarm that you tried to open your third eye. What else could you be? Violo laughed. This makes your situation all the more intriguing. Your soul is willing to absorb any and all magic thrown at it. Telepathy, healing, illusions, who knows what else? This violates the laws of nature. Human souls are not supposed to be limitless. A human body will shatter if one pours too much energy into it. You still seem vulnerable to that. It'd be a shame if you died on accident. The way he said that clued me in that if it was by his hands, it wouldn't be an accident. Can't we just be friends, Vive? Why is that interesting? Aren't I a mere defect? Ah! I need it. Violo leaned in so quickly, our foreheads almost collided. I need that power. I need that void.
That's funny. I got a void in my soul, and my name is Duvid. Lol. It's like pottery, it rhymes.
His voice was desperate and almost reverential. A fond smile crossed his face. And you're going to help me get it. After all, it's not like you can go anywhere else. Feel free to try if you want to. Vivere shrugged his shoulders. Now, that would be fatal. The grin became sharper then. I'm quite the grump when things get in the way of my studies. But that won't be a problem, right? He leaned in close one more time. Behave for now. We'll figure out what to do with you after the experiment ends. I shuddered. My captivity in Sacrarium Pario had begun. Oh, this isn't going to be a fun time like it was with Hamos, was it? This is going to be scary. This is going to be nightmarish.